Imagine waking up every morning with the same weight pressing on your chest. You scroll through your phone before even getting out of bed. You compare yourself to strangers online. You feel that sting of inadequacy before you've even brushed your teeth. You walk through your day carrying invisible chains no one else can see, yet they dictate your every move. And here lies the cruel paradox. You want freedom, you want control, you want to master life. But you haven't yet mastered the person staring back at you in the mirror. This is where the brutal truth begins. You will never dominate life if you cannot dominate yourself. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher and emperor of Rome, once wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Yet how many of us live as if the opposite were true? We chase control of the external world, money, recognition, relationships, status, while neglecting the only empire that truly belongs to us, our own mind. The tragedy of humanity is not that life is cruel, but that we are often enslaved by ourselves. Enslaved by impulses. Enslaved by distractions. Enslaved by addictions we dare not name out loud. Think of the alcoholic who destroys his family because he cannot control his thirst. Think of the young girl starving herself in front of a mirror, enslaved by the voice of insecurity society planted inside her. Think of the man who spends his life chasing validation, refreshing his phone every 10 minutes, yet never feeling enough. These are not random misfortunes. They are the symptoms of a war lost within. Friedrich Nietzsche once warned, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." That is the nature of living creatures. And this is the dark secret of our age. Most people do not obey themselves. They are governed by desires, urges, fears, and cultural programming they have never questioned. They wake up each day with the illusion of freedom, but they are prisoners inside their own skin. But here is the even darker irony. Our greatest enemies are not governments, not tyrants, not systems of oppression. Our greatest enemies live inside of us. Procrastination, fear, insecurity, doubt, anger, laziness. These invisible tyrants rule silently, with no armies, no weapons, no flags, just our own consent. Let's be brutally honest. How many times have you betrayed yourself? How many times have you promised, "I will change tomorrow," only to collapse back into the same patterns? How many times have you chosen temporary pleasure over lasting growth, even while knowing it would destroy you? Each betrayal of the self is not small. It is a fracture in your soul, a surrender in the war for your life. Seneca, another Stoic, wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." These words echo through centuries with terrifying clarity. Freedom is not about doing whatever you want. Freedom is the rare ability to do what is necessary, even when it hurts. We must face this uncomfortable truth. Most of the suffering in the world does not come from natural disasters or cosmic injustice. It comes from human beings who could not govern themselves. Wars ignited by egos too proud to compromise. Families torn apart by tempers that were never mastered. Generations wounded by addictions passed down like curses. The tragedy of humankind is not that life is too short, but that we waste it enslaved to impulses that do not care about our destiny. And so, I ask you now, not as a lecture, but as a mirror. Who controls you? Is it truly you? Or are you a puppet in the hands of desires, fears, and addictions that whisper commands in the dark? This chapter is not about comfort. It is about confrontation. Because before we can master life, we must admit a simple but brutal fact. We are not yet free. We are prisoners. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a battlefield. Not one with swords and shields, but one far more dangerous, the battlefield of your own mind. On one side stands your highest self, the version of you who seeks discipline, meaning, and greatness. On the other side, countless enemies march forward. The craving for comfort, the lust for distraction, the hunger for recognition, the endless appetite for more. Every day of your life is fought on this battlefield, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not. And here lies the devastating truth. Most people lose this war before they even realize it has begun. Plato, in the Republic, described the soul as a chariot pulled by two horses, one noble and disciplined, the other wild and untamed. Unless the charioteer controls them, the chariot will crash. This ancient metaphor perfectly mirrors the modern struggle. The noble horse is your reason, your conscience, your will. The wild horse is your impulses, your appetites, your irrational desires. And the charioteer? That is you, the one who must decide who holds the reins. But what happens when the wild horse wins? History itself gives us the answer. Take the story of Alexander the Great. The man who conquered half the known world by the age of 33 could not conquer his own impulses. His temper, his thirst for alcohol, and his reckless rage drove him into chaos. He died young, not in battle, but consumed by the very lack of self-control that no empire could protect him from. Or look closer to our times. Millions today are addicted, not just to substances like alcohol and drugs, but to dopamine itself. Social media, pornography, gambling, endless scrolling, all engineered to hijack the brain's reward system. Each click, each swipe, each like is a victory for the wild horse. And the rider grows weaker, more enslaved, more detached from his true purpose. Epictetus, the Stoic slave who became a philosopher, once declared, "No man is free who is not master of himself." His life embodied this truth. Even in chains, Epictetus was freer than millions today, who cannot spend 10 minutes in silence without reaching for their phones. Chains are not always made of iron. Sometimes they are invisible and far more dangerous. But the saddest truth is not just individual. The inability to govern desire destroys families, communities, and nations. The parent who cannot control their anger passes down trauma like an inheritance. The leader who cannot control their greed bleeds his people dry. The society that cannot restrain its appetites collapses into decadence, as Rome did when pleasure became its god. Look around our modern world, and you will see Rome repeating itself. Obesity, addictions, financial ruin, depression, all symptoms of lives governed by unchecked desire. We are not falling because the universe is cruel. We are falling because we are losing the war against ourselves. Nietzsche warned with chilling precision. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. To be yourself is a great achievement. But to be yourself, in the truest sense, is not to surrender to every urge, but to govern them with an iron will. Self-mastery is not denial. It is not repression. It is the art of commanding your desires instead of being commanded by them. To tell yourself, "I will eat, but I will not be eaten alive by hunger. I will love, but I will not be consumed by obsession. I will rest, but I will not bow to laziness." The strongest man is not the one who lifts the heaviest weights, but the one who can resist his own temptations. The most successful woman is not the one with the loudest applause, but the one who remains steady when her emotions threaten to overthrow her. Every empire that has ever fallen, whether nations or individuals, has fallen first from within. And so, the battle continues. Each choice you make, no matter how small, is a step towards slavery or sovereignty. The question is, will you be the rider of your chariot, or be dragged, broken, by the wild horse of desire? Every funeral carries the same tragedy. Not that the person is gone, but that most of their life was never truly lived. People die at 80, but in truth, they stopped living decades earlier. Suffocated by their habits, chained to their fears, enslaved to their own impulses. The body kept breathing, but the soul had long surrendered. This is the silent epidemic of our age. Not famine, not war, not disease. The epidemic is slavery of the self. Men and women who cannot control their anger destroying the very families they swore to protect. Young people paralyzed by procrastination, scrolling endlessly through screens while their dreams gather dust. Ordinary workers drowning in debt, not because they don't earn, but because they cannot restrain their hunger for more. And yet, we call this freedom. We mistake indulgence for liberty, consumption for happiness, distraction for peace. But there is no freedom in being controlled by every craving, every fear, every opinion of others. That is not freedom, it is servitude. The philosophers understood this long before us. Marcus Aurelius warned, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Seneca declared, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And Nietzsche, with brutal precision, revealed, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." Their message is not gentle. It is a knife that cuts to the bone. If you cannot govern yourself, you will be governed. by your desires, by your fears, by the systems that profit from your weakness. Look around. The evidence is everywhere. A society sick with distraction, sedated by cheap pleasures, terrified of silence. People know what they should do. They should eat better, work harder, love deeper, think clearer, yet they betray themselves daily. And this betrayal is not small. It kills potential. It destroys destinies. It turns lives into half-lived shadows. So here is the truth, sharp and merciless. You will never master life if you cannot master yourself. This is where our journey begins. The harshest prisons are not made of bars, but of weakness. Weakness of will. Weakness of discipline. Weakness of character. And the sad truth is that most of humanity lives inside these prisons, disguised as ordinary lives. Discipline is often misunderstood. People think of it as punishment, as restriction, as a cage that denies joy. But the reality is the opposite. Discipline is not the cage, it is the key. It is the door that unlocks freedom. Without it, you are not free. You are a slave to every passing mood, every craving, every distraction. Think of the student who dreams of becoming a doctor but cannot resist the comfort of Netflix. The years slip away, and so does the dream. Think of the father who swears he will stop drinking, but one more night at the bar ruins another promise. His children grow up not with a protector, but with a ghost. Think of the young woman who wants to write, to create, to leave something behind, but her phone vibrates, and she disappears into the endless scroll of other people's lives. These are not strangers. These are us. Ordinary people, defeated not by catastrophe, but by weakness. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Every wasted day is not just a lost opportunity. It is evidence of chains we refuse to break. Chains we often pretend are not there. Discipline, in its essence, is the art of saying no. No to laziness, no to impulses, no to the easy path. But it is also the art of saying yes, yes to growth, yes to resilience, yes to the future self you claim to desire. Without discipline, the future remains only a fantasy. Consider the societies that collapsed not because they were attacked, but because they decayed from within. Rome did not fall in a single battle. It rotted through decadence, indulgence, a culture that traded discipline for pleasure. History is not just about empires. It is about individuals. And when enough individuals lose discipline, entire civilizations follow. But let's bring this closer. Look at modern addictions: gambling, pornography, binge eating, compulsive shopping. Industries worth billions thrive on your weakness. They do not care about your freedom. They profit from your inability to resist. Each time you surrender to the temptation, you are not exercising freedom. You are paying rent to your captors. Nietzsche understood this when he wrote, "The man who despises himself still respects himself as one who despises." The greatest suffering is not external failure. It is the internal shame of knowing you betrayed yourself again. That sting, that silent regret, that is the tyranny of weakness. And here lies the paradox. The stronger your discipline, the lighter your life becomes. The weaker your discipline, the heavier every step feels. The man who wakes early, trains his body, focuses his mind, he suffers less, not more. The woman who controls her spending, her diet, her attention, she carries less anxiety, not more. Discipline is not chains, it is wings. So we must face this brutal truth. The absence of discipline is not freedom. It is slavery wearing the mask of choice. The world will always present distractions. Desires will never vanish. Weakness will always whisper. But you have only two options: command yourself or be commanded. And only one of these paths leads to lies to you more than you do. No one betrays you more than you betray yourself. And the cruelest pain is not what others do to us. It is the pain of watching ourselves become less than what we know we could be. How many times have you sworn, "Tomorrow I'll change," only to wake up and repeat the same cycle? How many diets have begun on Monday and ended on Wednesday? How many promises have been whispered in silence? "I'll quit, I'll start, I'll do better," only to vanish in the fog of weakness. Every broken promise to yourself leaves a scar, not on the skin, but on the soul. It corrodes trust, it erodes dignity, and it reshapes your identity. Because when you fail too many times, you no longer see yourself as capable than you do. No one betrays you more than you betray yourself. And the cruelest pain is not what others do to us. It is the pain of watching ourselves become less than what we know we could be. How many times have you sworn, "Tomorrow I'll change," only to wake up and repeat the same cycle? How many diets have begun on Monday and ended on Wednesday? How many promises have been whispered in silence? "I'll quit, I'll start, I'll do better," only to vanish in the fog of weakness. Every broken promise to yourself leaves a scar, not on the skin, but on the soul. It corrodes trust, it erodes dignity, and it reshapes your identity. Because when you fail too many times, you no longer see yourself as capable. You begin to accept weakness as who you are, not just what you do. And that is the most dangerous wound of all, when failure becomes identity. The ancient philosophers warned us about this slow decay. Epictetus taught, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Yet what do? We hand over our control willingly, not to fate, not to gods, but to impulses. We sell our sovereignty for crumbs of pleasure. The results are everywhere. The mother who loses her children because she couldn't master her addiction. The student who throws away years of potential for the comfort of laziness. The talented artist who never creates because he drowns in distraction. These are not tragedies written by destiny. They are self-inflicted wounds. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He wrote, "Man is something that shall be overcome." But instead of overcoming, most of us collapse. We settle. We betray the very possibility of greatness within us. And the saddest truth is this: betrayal of the self does not stay private. It bleeds outward. A father who cannot control his temper creates a household of fear. A leader who cannot control his greed poisons entire nations. A society filled with individuals who betray themselves becomes a culture of corruption, indulgence, and decay. The wound of self-betrayal is contagious. But here is the paradox. The same hands that wound us can also heal us. Each time you resist temptation, each time you honor your word, each time you master yourself, you stitch a piece of your soul back together. You rebuild trust with yourself. You create a self-image of strength instead of weakness. This is why mastery of the self is not optional. It is survival. Because a person who cannot trust themselves will collapse under the weight of life. But a person who governs themselves can endure storms that would destroy others. The world will test you. Life will hurt you. But the deepest wounds are always self-inflicted. And so, the greatest victory is not against others. It is against the enemy within.